Alright, as promised, I got another American-made buck. This happens to be the 289 Fluid. Now this is a true EDC. This knife you can carry in your pocket almost anywhere. It's the right size, it's the right weight. Everything about it is a nice American-made, inexpensive pocket knife. Now this knife right here, as I mentioned, is the 289 Fluid. Now that's a 3-inch 420HC satin harpoon top with recurve. That's awesome. So I'm a real fan of both styles. I really like the harpoon top. Now see, that thing is not sharp at all on the top, but just the look and design of it, it's just a cool design. And then the recurve, where you take and shave off a little bit right here on the inside of this knife, and you still have the belly at the front, and then it just curves just ever so slightly in. That right there is just a new design, and what that shows us is that Buck is trying to get more modernized with the style knife they designed. This one, of course, is designed in-house, and it is an American-made knife. As you know, Buck over the years has been bringing production back to the United States, up in the quality of their workmanship, and this is a direct result of it. You get a $30 knife that's unassisted in its opening style, so it's a two-handed closer, one-handed opener. But if you notice, this US-made Buck right here, it's got a thumb hole opener. Looks similar? Well, I think so. To me, it kind of looks like a Spyderco. Now, I know you can't do a exact rip-off of it, but it's very similar, okay? And it behaves like one as well. It's very smooth. It's got that nice satin finish steel, and it's got a really good weight to it. Because what you notice here is this black glass reinforced nylon handle actually has stainless steel liners in it. And that's one thing that I really appreciate about this knife over the Bantams. Now the Bantams are really good, really expensive American-made buck knives as well. Remember, those are anywhere from $20 to $30, where this model retails for about $42, but you're going to get it for $30 up to $38 with shipping from some websites. But the advantage to this over the Bantams is that stainless steel liner, and you can't really see it. That's because it's almost like an inlay inside this handle, which is cool as well because they did that to cut down on weight. And then you can see up here they have the thick liners that come up to the top so that your pivot at the top is actually reinforced. That means that there's no north and south, or there's very little east and west, as I like to call it, but no north and south. So this knife locks into place. It's got a good lock to it, and there's very little blade play. You can't beat that for a knife this price range made in the US. And I like the texture of this glass reinforced nylon handle because it's almost like a G10 in that it has that kind of somewhat sandpaper pattern to it, so it's not going to slip out of your hand. And they do what's known a 3D process of injection molding on making these, and you can see that it has a choil right here on the handle so that your finger comes in and rests, and then if you notice at the top, your thumb goes on it. So if you're cutting things, it's a really good ergonomic fit. I can appreciate that. That's not all with this knife. The pocket clip. Notice that it is a very, very deep pocket clip, which is always appreciated. Because if you can have that knife deep in your pocket, you know it's less likely to fall out if you're doing any work, or if you're climbing up on the roof or doing anything that would require a lot of movement. You know, knives can work themselves out of the pocket. You don't want to lose these. Even at $30, you're not wanting to throw that money away. So this knife with this extremely deep pocket clip, and what I also appreciate is instead of going with that new design that a lot of companies are doing with just one screw on the pocket clip, it cuts down on price and clutter. It does make them less springy, so that whenever you try to put tension on it, you know, there's not as much tension. This one has the 2 screws with the stainless steel standoffs. Again, things that are really appreciated by this design. It is serviceable because, as you can see, these are hex screws all the way through, so it's not just rivets on this knife. Again, something that's really nice for this price range and really appreciated. So this knife right here just shows that it's one of the new Buck designs that's getting back to basics of producing smart American-made knives. This knife was actually stamped 1/1917, but the blade stamp on it states that the blade was actually made in 2016. So next to the 289, the icon shows the blade production of 2016, but the knife wasn't finally assembled or shipped from Buck until 1/1817. And that's because it's this new model year design, but they were obviously producing the blades at the end of last year. I got a lot of good things to say about this knife. I mean, I've sat here and said all the things I appreciate about it, but what I also like is just simply how I carry it in the pocket and how it's got a little bit of weight to it, but not too much, and it just, with the standoffs, it fits perfectly in the pocket. So you can take it out, flip it, and use it. It is not a self-defense knife. This is an everyday carry EDC that's meant for working. This is something that if you're actually going to need it for a job, or if you need it for cutting, or if you need it as a utility blade, this is what you're going to want to use. It's not a thrusting knife or a fighting knife. Obviously at 3 inches, it wasn't intended to be, but 3 inches makes it legal in a lot more states than if it were over 3 inches. Perfect size blade. Always felt like under 3 inches is a little too small to work with, and over 3.5 inches, you're becoming some type of hunting blade. So it's in that perfect sweet spot, and as far as legality goes, it's the perfect size. You can see that opening it one-handed, it's very smooth and very easy, but it is a two-handed closer, as I like to say. And that's because the action of it, you don't want to catch it on your hand when you're closing it, and you want to make sure that you snap it. I mean, you could take it and drop it and close it. You know, some people want to try and do the magic of that. You're just tearing up the blade. I just like to take it, go like that. I'm not trying to intimidate anybody. I'm just trying to have a utility knife in my pocket. And a good looking one at that. Again, I do appreciate that harpoon top recurve. I hope that Buck comes out with more designs like this. I'm really, really fond of the recurve style that's subtle. I don't like the extreme recurve that comes back up into the knife and you actually lose the rigidity of the blade. This is just enough that it gives it that wave effect. Nice aesthetics. So kudos to Buck for coming out with something that looks good, that functions well, that's inexpensive, and of course, that's made in America. That's my biggest sticking point on knives these days. Let's bring production back to the US and let's make it count. Looks like Buck's already started doing that, and they have been for the last few years. So if you're looking for a really nice EDC and not a fighting knife or a self-defense weapon, I recommend the Buck 289 Fluid. 3-inch 420HC satin harpoon top recurve steel blade. Try saying that over and over. That's a mouthful, but I tell you what, it's a nice knife. So, good luck, happy hunting, and I hope you find yourself a really affordable, functional, everyday carry. Thank you.